This episode of Cape Ann Today is brought to you by J&L Welding. Hey folks, welcome back to Cape Ann Today. Today I am joined by Matt Lundberg. He is the co-chair for the Community Preservation Committee for the City of Gloucester. How you doing, Matt?
Good, Corey. Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so right off the bat, for those who don't know, what is the Community Preservation Committee? What is this all about? And what are we looking to accomplish here today?
Well, thanks for having me and happy to answer that question. The Community Preservation Committee is one of many committees in the City of Gloucester's government. It was formed about 10 years ago. About 20 years ago, the state of Massachusetts passed a law called the Community Preservation Act. And it acknowledged the fact that most municipalities in the Commonwealth would love to fund historic preservation, affordable housing, open space preservation projects as much as anybody would. But when it comes to funding prioritizing in any city or town, those frequently aren't at the top of the list. And the state recognized that. So they passed the Community Preservation Act and created a fund. And the fund is generated from a very small fee that is split off of any real estate transaction that results in a small fee being paid to the Registry of Deeds. So whenever you buy or sell a house or do anything else that requires a fee to the Registry of Deeds, a portion of that money goes into this Community Preservation Fund. The state then said to cities and towns in the Commonwealth, said, hey, we've got this new law and we've got this pot of money. And if you'd like to get a part of that pot, you need to pass the Community Preservation Act in your municipality. So it goes on the ballot and a city or town decides what percentage of their real estate taxes they want to divert to this fund that can only be used for these requirements. And it needs to pass a majority vote on the city's ballot. Gloucester passed that in 2010, I believe. And the percentage that Gloucester applies is 1%. So anybody who's paying a real estate tax bill, 1% of that goes to the Community Preservation Fund that we develop.
Interesting.
On an annual basis, that results in $600,000 or $700,000 in funds that go into Gloucester's Community Preservation Fund. Then the city matches that to some percent, the state matches that to some percentage and gives Gloucester a portion of the fund that the state collects. And that match varies year to year. It was thin for a few years, but then the state changed the equations on how they supplement that fund. Last year, it was about a 40% match, I think. So in calendar 2021, Gloucester raised, I think, $750,000 in local taxes, but the state kicked in, I think, $330,000 in matching funds. So it was about a 40% match, which is great because it's state money that we would otherwise not get. The caveat is that that fund can only be used for historic preservation, open space preservation, affordable housing, or the creation of outdoor recreation space. So the state law requires a city to form a community preservation committee that will basically encourage the application from parties to use those funds and then review those applications, make sure that they adhere to the state law, and then make recommendations to the mayor and the city council on which projects to fund. We do that on an annual basis. Last year, we funded 9 projects for a total of $600,000 in outlays. And the outlays ranged from $9,800 to restore some pretty incredible headstones that are in the First Parish burial grounds to, I believe our top one was, $200,000 to Action Incorporated in support of their rental assistance program for people who can't make their rental bills. It's a wonderful program, and we're really happy to support them with that. So We meet on a regular basis, but we have a calendar cycle which kicks up right now, which is why we're trying to get the word out to everybody in Gloucester. We're accepting applications for the 2022 round of projects right now. And the first set of applications are due on March 8th. So anybody who in town who has a project that needs funding that falls into historic preservation, open space preservation, affordable housing, or recreational space, uh, all you need to do is get an application into the city. And this is a very simple application at the first glance. It's basically to say, here's my project, please tell me if it's allowable under the statute. And there's guidelines on what those are. They're all published on our webpage at the City of Gloucester's website. Within the next few weeks, our committee meets and reviews it, says whether it's eligible or not. And if it is eligible, then a full application is due in May. Then we take summer months to review everything. We do site visits, we work with the applicants, and in September, we decide which of those projects we're going to recommend for funding to the mayor. So that's what we do.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Matt, why is this so important to you?
Well, I grew up in Gloucester. I like many people in Gloucester, I just love Gloucester in a lot of different ways. And I'd had some experience with the Community Preservation Act. I lived for a number of years in Acton, and I was on the Community Preservation Committee there. I think it's a wonderful program. It's easy to overlook projects that fall into these categories. And when you have a little extra money, it's clear the citizens of Gloucester support it. But if you can use that support and get some extra money for the state and leverage our interest by getting more state money, it's great. And so I really like it because it allows us to fund projects that might otherwise go unfunded. And it's personally very gratifying to always work with the people who apply, because they have to struggle for money and ask for money all the time. And if we can help them get over the hump, it's gives you a good feeling.
Yeah, and I was going to ask too, what are you telling someone to assure them that the application process isn't that daunting?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, you can get lost in the weeds a little bit if you want to say, go out and read the entire state statute, which I'd recommend, but law tends to get bogged down. But at the heart of it, it's pretty straightforward. If it fits one of those criteria, open space preservation, historic preservation, affordable housing, or outdoor recreation space, then if you've got an idea, then come to us and we can tell you pretty quickly whether it's eligible or not. Really, the major hurdle for a lot of people or organizations is that usually CPC grant is not the only source of funding. Sometimes it can be, but we're usually one of several different funding sources. And that's the way that we like to see ourselves, is we can provide some pretty substantial funds, but if it's a big project, we don't have big by, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, that we don't have that kind of money. But if you need $9,500 to restore headstones, that we can cover. And if you need another project that we did this year is restoring the murals in the Saunders House at the Sawyer Free Library, as well as supporting some architectural and restoration to some of the walls and structures that are within. That's a $160,000 project. We're funding half of it. The library is raising funds from their own sources to do it. Those kind of things we can do. That's what fits into the wheelhouse of the CPC.
Gotcha. So just to reiterate, if people want to learn more about this or apply, how can they go about doing that?
So the first step is to go to the Community Preservation Committee's page on the City of Gloucester's website. And it's really easy to find. You go to the City of Gloucester's website and then put your mouse or your finger on the government tab, and on the drop down, the Community Preservation Committee is there. It tells you what we do. It's got a link to the online form that you need to fill out if you want to apply for funds. And most importantly, we have an annual public hearing on Tuesday, March 1st, 2 weeks from today. And at that meeting, we will overview the Community Preservation Act process, entertain questions from potential applicants, make contacts, provide other resources. And so that's it. It's the webpage, which has a lot of valuable links to it, when this public hearing we have on Tuesday the 1st.
Beautiful. Well, we appreciate your time, Matt, and thanks for all the work you do, and encourage folks to apply ASAP. We'll have that link up there for you. And Matt, maybe as this process unfolds, we can chat again and see how things are. Follow the process and those next steps.
Certainly. I'd be happy to, Corey. Thank you for your time.
Take care.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.